Purdue University seeking solutions amid housing issues. So 2 weeks ago, more than 700 Purdue students, upperclassmen, received notices from Purdue Student Life, from Purdue University residences, about their room assignments, and it wasn't good. The announcements were to tell them that they were being downgraded from their selected rooms, or that their selected rooms were now going to have more roommates than what they had signed up for. They were turning doubles into quads and quads into sixes and all sorts of things. They were moving students out to rented student housing, out to some of the apartment complexes around the fringes of campus where Purdue has been doing master releases the last couple of years to relieve the pressure on the dorm situation. And it was not pretty. I think the word bloodbath comes to mind. The student reaction to these unilateral actions by the university were not positive. Why did the university do this? Well, they've been trying to clamp down on the number of new students that they take in every year. And every year they're surprised that they get more and more and more. And they're making the acceptance process more and more stringent, but they seem to be getting more and more applications that meet those stringent requirements, and they're going over. And this year, I believe the statistic was they were aiming for 300 fewer than their numbers in the past, but they wound up 1,600 students over. So that's a spread of almost 2,000 people that now they're having to wedge in to housing, into student housing. And that's a broad term because there's student housing that are the dorms that you might think of when you think of a college, those tiny rooms with roommates and communal bathrooms. There are some premium products at student housing that are a communal living area with private bedrooms off of them. There is what used to be referred to as married student housing, the hilltop apartment complexes that are one time or another were aimed at married students, but now that's just general student housing. There are fraternities and sororities which are not, controlled by Purdue University, but are related and do have something to do with the number of students that they can fit in at any given time. And then, like I said, Purdue has been doing master leases on buildings like Rise and all of these other surrounding apartment communities and putting students into them as if they were a dorm. And I believe they are still trying to provide them that support mechanism. They would get in a dorm, with resident assistance and all of that. But the pushback from especially freshman students and parents is that they want that on-campus experience, that they want to be in a dorm, that they want those learning communities. So when they're being forced out, it's not a positive. But if that's not important to you, I have another proposal for you to think about. We do get a lot of people watching the channel, watching the show that are coming to the area, whether it is because they're relocating for a job. Perhaps they're relocating for a job at Purdue University. Perhaps you're a new professor, staff member, administrator, but certainly students and their parents. They're looking for information about Lafayette and West Lafayette. And if you're one of those, if you are either an undergrad or a parent of an undergrad, or if you are what I jokingly refer to as an overgrad, if you are a master's student or a doctoral student of any kind, there is a third possibility, because possibility number one, student housing. Possibility number two, a rental, whether that's an apartment or single family home. But let's talk about the possibility of number three. How about thinking about purchasing a home? Now, that sounds crazy, I know, but let's talk through the numbers real quick. Let's just get a sense of what it is that we're talking about here. So I've got some statistics here that I'm going to go through. So as of late spring, early summer, here's some rental numbers for dorms and other items around campus. I don't think that these have drastically changed with this new thing that has come out. I think that they've offered a discount to some of those students who are in that position of being forced into a new contract, but these numbers are still valid. The cheapest dorm at Purdue University is a triple, no air conditioning, no connected bathroom, at $2,600 per year. So that's not terrible, but that is about $10,400 over a typical 4-year undergrad if you were to stay there. So $10,400 for 4 years. The most expensive on the flip side is Infuse. It's one of these new developments. Now, this is a 1-bedroom for 1 person with air conditioning. So they do have some setups that are different where you do that communal bathroom setup or whatever. So this is a true 1-1. $18,200 per year. Now that is an apartment, but that $18,000 times 4, you're talking about $72,000 if you were to live there over the 4-year life of an undergrad. And then the most expensive dorm is what I was talking about, one of these premium products. It's called First Street Towers. It's a single with a private bath and AC. $10,130 per year. So if you were to live there all 4 years of an undergrad, you'd be about $40,500 total, what you would pay to rent a dorm. Now, this is exclusive of things like food and transportation. We're talking pure housing numbers. Now, a typical undergrad is 4 years. Does every undergrad live in a dorm all 4 years? I'm not sure the numbers on that, but I don't think the answer is yes. I think some percentage do, but a large percentage certainly move out from the dorms and go on to rent at an apartment or even will rent a house with friends. A good number at Purdue go to Greek life, go to a sorority or fraternity that has housing, and those have, costs that are in line with dorms. Then you have master's students. They're typically only at Purdue for 2 years, and they are most likely either going to be in a university apartment or an off-campus apartment. They're the ones that this is the hardest case to make for. And then finally, we have doctoral students. And doctoral students are a little harder to classify. The typical of a PhD in which school are we looking at here? I think this is an average for a PhD student. 15 semesters, 5.49 years, so 5.5 years. 51% complete inside of 6 years their PhDs at Purdue University. So if you're here just for a PhD, you're here for 6 years. So if you're renting an off-campus apartment at, the number is, at $18,000 a year, 18,000 times 6, I'm going to get out my calculator so I don't do this in my head. I should be able to. 18,000 times 6 years. $108,000. That's a whole lot of money that you're just throwing away. This is that typical, do you rent or do you buy? Do you invest in yourself? Talking a little bit about rents, Infuse, a 1-bedroom is $19.75 per month. In Rise, a 1-bedroom is $21.49. In West Lafayette, the median rental price is $1,900 per month. That is the median. That means that half of rentals cost more than the $1,900 and half of rentals cost $1,900 or less. In Lafayette, you get a bit of a discount. The median is only $1,200. So $1,200 is the middle point, so half of all rentals are $1,200 or more, and half of all the other half are $1,200 or less. So let's do some math there. $1,200 times 12, right? For a year, $14,000 a year, $14,400. If you're here for an undergrad, almost $60,000. If you're here for a doctoral degree for the full 5.5 to 6 years, you're talking around $90,000 in Lafayette. Let's talk about sales prices of houses. Should you buy a house? Can you buy a house? Well, the median sales price in West Lafayette this was either May or June, was $307,000. The median sales price in Lafayette was $225,900, call it $226,000. So with 3.5% down in West Lafayette, your monthly payment would be about $2,500. In Lafayette, your payment would be about $1,276, about $1,300 based on 3.5% down. So in Lafayette, those numbers make a whole lot of sense. You're paying $1,300 a month. That median rent is about $1,200 a month. So it costs a little bit more, but you're investing in yourself. If you're here for 6 years, you're getting that $90,000, $100,000 paid into the equity of your own home, of your account. If you live in rented housing, whether it's a dorm or an apartment or single family house, no matter what it is, you're paying that to a landlord and you're not getting anything back. Think about it. At the end of 4 years, $60,000, you go out and your house has appreciated. Homes tend to appreciate. There is no guarantee, but homes tend to appreciate. Your home will have appreciated in value and you'll have $60,000 in equity, which means that when you go to move to the next place, if you're graduating with a degree to that job, you're going to have equity to go buy a house in your next destination, in the next big city you want to live in the next rural town you want to live in, wherever it might be. I think it just makes complete sense to at least entertain the idea of buying a house. Housing is expensive, and what Purdue University students are having to face is not easy. The university doesn't have it easy. They're trying to make the best of a bad situation, and that's leaving a lot of people in the lurch, so you should consider it. Now, how do you come up with that down payment? That's a little harder to solve. It is not impossible to solve, but there are all sorts of programs out there. We think about the typical down payment of 20%. The typical down payment of 20% is not so typical. It is for a conventional loan, but there are many programs that have a 10% down payment. And one of the most commonly used loans is called an FHA loan, the Federal Housing Administration. And they are designed to get people into houses, typically first-time homeowners, but it can be first-time homeowner in a particular area. There are some rules around that, but I can talk you through that in combination with one of my great colleagues here in the mortgage industry, and I'd be happy to connect you and have those conversations. But 3.5% is a very typical number. And so, yes, you still have to come up with money. You're talking about $3,500 for every $100,000 of house. So let's go to Lafayette, where the median was $225,917 times 3.5%. You got to come up with $7,900 plus some closing costs. So you got to come up with about $10,000. Can you come up with $10,000? Maybe. It can be gift funds from family, from parents. You were going to put that money into renting anyway. So there are ways to do it. And there are down payment assistance programs that can bring your down payment down to as little as 0%. Not everybody qualifies for them, but you might be surprised that a lot of students do, because a lot of them are actually income and history based. So it's at least worth the conversation. Does it make sense for a freshman? Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, if you're a freshman and your family is in a position to help you out with a down payment and they can help you invest in your future, then being here for 4 years, yeah, I think it might make complete sense. Does it make sense for a master's student that's going to be here for 2 years? Probably not. Does it make sense for a doctoral student, for a PhD student who's going to be here for 6 years? Yes, it does. And then what about that super student who's going to do all of their degrees at Purdue? They're going to do 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of master's, and 6 years of PhD, 14 years here at Purdue. Well, guess what? You're 1 year away from paying off a 15-year mortgage, or you're almost halfway to that 30-year mortgage. So should you do it? Should you buy a house in Lafayette or West Lafayette if you're a Purdue student? We should at least talk about it. So why don't you reach out? My information is right here below. Give me a call, send me an email. All of my digital information is here on the QR code, so check that out. Send me a message. I'm Geoff Gooch with the Russell Company powered by App Properties, and I'd love to be your local Purdue real estate resource of choice. Please reach out to me.